Don't be too hard on.
Oop. And hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Mortgage Leadership Outlook. We really appreciate you joining us. Today, we're so excited to have none other than my good buddy, mentor, leader, Mr. Tony Thompson, the president of the National Association of Minority Mortgage Bankers, better known to us all as NAMMBA. Tony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, first of all, Andrew, thanks a lot for having me on, man. Always a pleasure when I get to see your face, so I'm glad to see you.
Thanks. I don't get to hear that often enough, so I like that. That's good. I get the kids, oh, dad's home. So that's good. I really, really appreciate that. So Tony, actually, I want to first before we get started, I've got a bunch of things I want to talk about. We have some big topics that I want to address here today, but let's start out. I want to talk about Tony Thompson and who Tony Thompson is. So Tony, tell us actually, how did you get first involved in the mortgage business?
Yeah, it's very simple, but believe it or not, like most of us, we have a story, right? We didn't intentionally, and I didn't intentionally come into the mortgage business. I was actually in human resources supporting the mortgage line of business when ultimately I realized how great of an industry this could be in terms of impacting people. And so, from there, I was working at Bank of America back in the day and, basically started out as an originator and then just kind of worked my way up to manager and area manager and regional manager and just got involved with the NBA as my career progressed and just ultimately ended up NAMMBA being a part of that natural progression.
So you got involved in the banking side of the business, yeah. Right? So when did you hit the mortgage side of the business and where not just where you got into it, but like where did it hit you? Where did all of a sudden, you found your calling and said, wow, I love this. This is great. This is actually what I want to dedicate my life to.
Well, like anything, when you're in sales and you're around a bunch of high A-type personalities, but most importantly, you are around people who are excited about impacting and changing people's lives, it realized and it hit me like, wow, what we do in the mortgage industry, outside of marriage, outside of, birth of a child, getting a new home, fulfilling the American dream, that's one of the top three things that people always dream about when they grow up. Get married, have a child, and have a home. And to be able to help create a memory of a lifetime and then to be there after that memory is created, I just felt like it was a great honor and also a great opportunity for me to just touch and impact people's lives.
So do you remember your first loan?
Yeah, it was a FHA loan back in the day. I was in Memphis, Tennessee, actually, to be exact. And so it wasn't a 720 FICO score. It was a little bit of a challenge. But it took us about 4 months to get that loan closed. It was a purchase loan. And that's when I also realized that not all neighborhoods and not all things are created equal and that there was a need for financial literacy education. Through my experience of working on the street day to day as an originator.
So
but we got it done.
Got that deal done. You got that FHA deal done. So now, if you go back actually so what year are we talking about?
This is back in 99.
99.
So if you think,
okay. So if you think about actually back then in 99, did you see actually anything like that resembled discrimination back in 99 in the mortgage business? So you're new into the business. What did you see back then?
It's funny. What I saw back then 20 years ago and what I saw today, it's very similar in terms of just a lack of understanding around that people and communities are different. And at the end of the day, the people who were sitting across the table from me, giving me their information. So obviously we weren't in a online form where people just, completed something online. You could see and hear this couple's voice, how they wanted a home. You could see and hear the recognition that they made some mistakes in their past, but they've been working very hard to save the money, to improve their credit, do all the right things. They just needed someone to understand their story. And it became my job and my role and really my focus to make sure that I was their voice. And so I think we fast forward 20 years later, and while technology has helped improve the speed of the process, I think we all have to be careful as an industry and as companies to understand that every home, every loan has a story. And the uniqueness of that story may be based on the different circumstances that people have had to overcome and also achieve to get to the point of where they are.
Wow. So did you actually, I mean, obviously you have this perspective looking back, but did you realize that you were stepping onto something that was going to take you into this direction where not only would you be successful in the mortgage business, but you would create a movement? Because NAMMBA is really like a movement. And I say this actually in it's not just an association. That's not taken away from what associations do, but the feeling that you get when you're a part of NAMMBA events. When you see actually the way people talk about NAMMBA, whether it's the little cocktail hours that you put together, whether it's just people just talking about it, just in conversations at other conferences, there's such a passion for NAMMBA. So going back then, did you actually say, hey, Tony Thompson, in 2020 is going to be president of this great big organization and is going to have such an impact on the industry?
Throughout my professional career, Andrew, I've had a chance to sit on a lot of boards. Also, a lot of boards that are also very engaged and involved from a housing, from a literacy standpoint, particularly within the minority community. But I will tell you, it was through that board experience that, I said to myself, man, having nonprofits, I have to take my hats off. Those are one of the hardest jobs that people can do. It's not like companies and nonprofits compete on talent and have the income to pay. And people do that because they are passionate about something they believe in. They're passionate about that particular mission. And, even 4 years ago when NAMMBA was formed, it was never my intention to form NAMMBA. It was really, my intention was to essentially do something I did this past Friday, which is I put out on LinkedIn a video, a call to action to say, hey, if you believe that our industry is a great place, if you believe that our industry should represent the future of what America looks like today and what it will be like, then let's have some conversations. Let's talk about how we can increase diversity and inclusion in our industry, but most importantly, how we can make everyone feel and value their contributions. And that's basically what happened in NAMMBA. Several years ago, everybody was saying we need more young people. The average age of an LO for the last 4 years has been 52. They're probably about 55 right now in terms of the average age, because for the last 3 years, it's been 52. So they've got to have a couple of birthdays by now. And everyone used to say, we need more young blood, we need more diversity, we need to help more women get to higher levels of the organization, but we never did anything about it. And so obviously, I said, it's time to stop talking 4 years ago. If anyone believes in this idea, and if anyone feels passionate like I do about it, come along and join me. And that's really how NAMMBA got started.
Wow. So, all right. So we're not Tony Thompson. Most of the people actually out here, are hardworking, originators, owners of mortgage companies, and they've watched the news. They've seen actually, this father of this beautiful little girl, die on camera. It's a tough thing actually for us all. As we're just actually, starting to recover from, coronavirus, and then we see this, this horrible thing actually that happened in Minnesota to George. And we see that actually, so we know we can't do something like what you've done. We know we can't actually do that because we found our lanes. We know we're good at whether it's running our mortgage company, but what are some kind of small steps that someone could take to bring about some kind of change if we want to take some action?
Yeah, no, very good question. And first and foremost, what I would say is, imagine if, let's take everything aside and just human to human. Imagine if the wife and spouse of George Floyd was the processor or the underwriter or the closer or the loan originator who was always doing your files, and this happened to them. Imagine if that person who you work with, it was them. Forget the color, their skin, forget all those things.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to someone that you cared about on your job, that you appreciated because they're a part of your company, what would you try to do? You would do two things. One, you would let them know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm sorry. I want you to understand that I'm here for you, and make sure that they know you care, right? So that's the first thing that companies and leaders and just anybody can do, is just make sure we all know and we all understand that we care about each other. The second thing that we can do is all recognize that in the course of caring, our journeys, our experiences, and our tribulations have all been different based on, unfortunately, sometimes the color of our skin. And so to that point, on Friday, in my message to our call to action, I heard, someone say, which is stuck with me, their message was, I understand that I will never understand, but I stand with you. I understand that I will never be a white male.
Yeah.
Only you have those experiences, Andrew.
Yeah.
But whenever you need me through our friendship, you know that I will be there to listen, help, and support you in any way that I can. And that's the message, I think. The second message I would say, that as an industry and as an employee, as an originator, as a person, if we all just say, I understand that I will never understand what it's like to be a white man.
Mm.
However, I'm with you and support you at that moment of time. That's what matters most.
Yeah, it's because something you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. Listen, I didn't know what questions to ask. I mean, Tony, you and I are really good friends, and it took me actually a long time to actually, what am I going to say? How can I say? I had more conversations with people about this interview than I have had with just about everyone else I've interviewed. Just because I felt this was actually probably one of the most important conversations that we can have, because this is actually a time, like you said in your video, for us to rise up, for us to actually to make some kind of a change. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what actually have you seen done. And I gotta give Melissa from my team credit. She said this, and I'm just like, oh, it hit me. I was like, oh yes, I love this. So what are some of the positive things that you've seen mortgage companies do, or individual originators possibly do, that has been positive, that so you've seen it work? Because here it's not just your company that you work for, it's not just your experience, but now you're plugged in to some of the biggest and best mortgage companies. You've seen actually things work well. You've probably seen some things work not so well. So can you talk about some experiences and things that you've seen from mortgage companies where they've put together diversity programs within the company, outreach into the community? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm excited to see the companies and the leaders that have at least stepped up and said, I understand at this moment in time, I need to be a leader. You know, it's easy. I found that throughout my 20 years in this career, it's easy to have a name and a title, and it's easy to say you're a leader. But when, as MLK said, you know, when the character of a man is formed in times of trying, times of change and turbulence. And so we're not in a time of turbulence, but we are in a time of change. And I think it's important that CEOs understand that their employees, whether they're red, black, yellow, green, blue, we all want to hear from leaders, and we all want our leaders to lead during times of uncertainty and during times of change. And so the most important thing that leaders can do right now is to say, I support you, I stand up, I hear you. I may not be able to walk in your shoes, but I want to understand your shoes. I want to understand what you have to go through so that as I make better decisions, I can make better decisions, because now diversity is all about bringing together different thoughts and different perspectives and including them, which is the inclusion piece, so that ultimately your outcome is better. The second piece of that, though, that, you know, I think is not just about last week or this week, is we can't just make a statement. We have to also, as an industry, make an intentional effort to bring about change, even within our industry, on things that we say are important. So if diversity and inclusion is important because the average age of a loan originator or an appraiser or an underwriter is over 50 years old, we have to make sure that we first will have an industry over the next 10 years by letting great, talented, diverse young people who represent the tapestry of this community and the tapestry of this country, letting them know that we do some great things in creating the dream of home ownership. The second piece of that, though, is there are a lot of talented individuals in companies today, processing, operations, servicing, origination, raising their hands saying, put me in, coach. All I want is a shot. All I want is an opportunity to show what I can do. And I think it's incumbent upon leaders to take a look at their organization and say, how do we create and open doors for talented individuals so that we can have more diversity in thought, diversity of perspectives that will ultimately make our industry and our organization better.
So what about some specific things, Tony? So first off, I'm hearing actually, you know, first off, right off the bat, listening. Like that seems to be like, you know, the first act of caring is listening. You know, like that's, you know, that seems to be like, you know, what I'm hearing as a part of your messages, right? Okay. So, but what are some like you know, actions that you've seen, you know, whether it's companies or individuals that they've done that have had actually significant impact, and I would like you to, if you can, name names. You know, if you're okay with that, you know, talk about actually, you know, company XYZ and actually how they actually, you know, did this. And I hope I'm not putting you on the spot and putting you in a place where you got to pick favorites. But I would love to hear actually, you know, because listen, you got to show the love everywhere. You know, it's equality under all the sponsorships too. The sponsors want equality too. But putting that aside, I'm sure there's some stories that you can think about, you know, where some of these companies just really stepped up, and you're like, this is great. If everyone did this, we wouldn't be having these, but at least diversity wouldn't be a conversation that would need to be have so much focus in the mortgage industry.
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, you know, I think it's important to understand that, you know, one, we just recognize and say, let's have a conversation. But then the other piece where companies can move the dial right now, I mean, we're sitting at a moment of time where if you're a mediocre company, you could actually become great by doing a couple of things to get your employees highly engaged. What are some of those things? It's real simple. First, you've got to create a program, what we call an employee resource group, or at least clubs in your organization where people know that you want to value diversity and inclusion by supporting everyone's uniqueness in your organization, whether that's gay and lesbian, whether that's Asian, Latino, African American, you know, you can have a deer hunting club, but now's the time to kind of make sure if you haven't looked at how your organization is going to connect and engage with your current employees. Because that's the future of your industry. The future and success of your company is maintaining highly engaged employees and building it from there. So that's the first step. The second step is to intentionally look at areas in your organization where you can develop training programs and leadership development programs so that at the end of the day, your employees, your high potential, great employees who are coming in, giving you all they have, they see a path forward to grow with their organization. Because here's what happened last week at what we call in Black America, table talk. Employees will go home, they see everything that's going on around the news outlets, the pictures, the stereotype, all the various messaging that's out there in the marketplace. And one of the things that they have to sit down at their kitchen table and say, wow, there's a lot going on outside of my world, outside of these doors. They ask one fundamental question: do I believe I have a company that understands me and supports me? And if their answer to that question is yes, then all those things that's going on the outside of their peripheral really has no significant impact to them. However, you will be surprised at how many phone calls, how many text messages I got last week when I posted that message, Andrew, that said, Tony, I need a company that cares about me. I don't feel like my current company, and I'm not going to name names, but I don't feel like my current company cares about me and my community.
Yeah.
Can you help me? That's what is important, because at the end of the day, retaining high engaged employees is critical for an organization to be successful. And that's why I said there are a lot of mediocre organizations that can become great right now just by engaging with their employees, implementing the right programs, implementing support and resources, but most importantly, getting to understand how they can make sure their employees can answer that question, that their company cares about them and their future. And that's no different, Andrew, than you or I. We all care about the same thing at the end of the day. We all want the same thing. We just want to make sure people have their opportunity to achieve that.
So it's like, you think about it, because we want to be heard. And listen, so yes, we want to hear from the loan officer that says this CRM sucks. And the loan officer wants actually their complaints about the CRM to be heard. But they also want something that they've been dealing with for their entire life, whatever their color of their skin is, whatever actually, whether they're a female, whether they're, LGBT, whatever actually that they have, that they've dealt with for their entire life. They want to know that they're being heard. And I think actually that is actually an important thing, whether it's something as relatively insignificant as a CRM and complaints about the way the menus are, or something as important as what someone's been dealing with their entire life. It's listening and listening. That goes for anything. It's always caring, showing you care, showing you listen. It's really it's.
I think it's one thing. It's also important to understand. A lot of times when people hear diversity and inclusion, that's the buzzword, right? They think it's taken away from one organization or one group of individuals to another. No, what diversity and inclusion is really simple, is having everyone to understand we are greater together than we are separate. We can accomplish more together. The United States of America is greater together on a national, international scene than the state of California, the state of New York, the state of Illinois. They cannot compare to the United States of America as a country.
Yeah,
And that's
I mean,
the power of diversity and inclusion. The power to leverage togetherness.
agree, 100%. New York, first off, we all agree that New York is better than every other state, but together we're all much greater together. So,
Exactly.
and I think we got a lot of great feedback coming in. So I really appreciate it. My dad here. I am white and middle class, and I can never understand what racial inequality and economic inequality has caused to our Black citizens. What I can do? What can I do to be a part of the change? Or what I can do to be? He wants to know what he could do. So here's my dad, white middle class in Oceanside, New York. What change actually can Mr. Joel Berman do?
Hey, first of all, your dad is like a father to me, Andrew, and this is funny, but people may not, again, understand 4 years ago, we developed a relationship. You've heard me say this with your dad on the phone that, at the end of the day, having someone that doesn't look like me step up and say, hey, how can I help? How can I be a part of the solution? That is really what it was all about 4 years ago, not just counting today. So first of all, Joe, I hope you can see me. I hope you're doing well. And, I miss you and I'm thinking about you. But really, at the end of the day, it's what we said earlier, just everyone recognizing that we are all different and that our differences is okay. And that's what makes us, that's what can make us great. And most importantly, we just all got to have conversations with each other. We got to all just talk about issues that are real and listen to each other's perspective.
Not just talk and let someone talk, actually, to allow them actually to move their lips, but listen to them and showing your care. So Allison Valor just popped in. She just said, what are the obstacles you've noticed that prevent minorities and women from achieving high power positions within the industry? Great question, Allison. Listen, we spent a lot of time, actually. I basically pirated our entire coffee meeting that we had at 2:00 today to say, hey, what do I do? What do I ask Tony? So if you could address actually Allison's question about the obstacles that you've noticed that prevent minorities and women from achieving the high power positions in the industry.
Yeah, first of all, again, NAMMBA was founded on that principle that we need to help women, minorities, millennials, help them take their career and their business to the next level. And that's all we do at NAMMBA is provide training, education, professional development for that next generation leader or that person or individual who aspires to be that next generation leader. And so I think as a whole, first, our industry needs to recognize while we have had some progress in getting more women into higher positions, we actually are paying the tab of several years ago. We haven't even started paying the tab of today, which is we need more senior leaders. We need more women. We need more Latinos. We need more Asians. We need more Indians. We need more African Americans in management roles, in regional roles, in CEO roles, in key leadership roles to be able to give companies the perspectives that they may not otherwise have when they are making strong decisions, when they're trying to make strategic decisions to grow their organization. So again, for the talented women that we have, it's all they want is what we said earlier, put me in, coach, give me an opportunity. And I think companies will be surprised when they allow women to have an opportunity to demonstrate their skill set and their ability to contribute to an organization as well.
Interesting. So, but if you can go back, actually, just I want to see if you can give some specific obstacles that you could think of that you've seen people go through. Because Tony, you're talking about all the things that we should be doing, but what haven't we done? Like specifically, maybe it was things actually, that we weren't listening. What were some of those obstacles that you could think of?
In terms of what we haven't done?
Yeah, what that obstacles that you've noticed that prevent the minorities, that prevent women, from achieving those high levels.
Really, at the end of the day, I think is that family? Is that the dog?
The dog, the wife screaming at the dog is.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I love it. So it's all good.
One of the dogs is going to come over and pee on my feet.
Yeah. So, one of the most important things I think companies can do is to understand and recognize that they need to develop a roadmap for young people who are coming into our industry, for originators who are looking to grow their careers, for operations professionals who are looking to grow their careers, for women who are looking to grow their careers. Most IMBs, independent mortgage banks, some banks, yes, the larger banks, regional banks, maybe also do not have an intentional talent growth plan, I call it, for their organization. And so again, being able to have and identify people in the organization that you can specifically cultivate, develop relationships, get them engaged in organizations like NAMMBA and other organizations is very important to their development. I tell people all the time, my best friends in this industry have all came because I participated in the MBA Future Leaders Program. I participated in getting my certified mortgage bankers designation. And through getting and having those experiences, Andrew, I was able to draw upon white females, Latino males, white males. I just made a plethora of friends that to this day have inspired me, have comforted me, have helped me to bring NAMMBA to where it is this point. And it was because I had an opportunity to learn and be a part from a growth and a development standpoint to be able to give back to my company and my industry. And I think that's what also companies miss is when you invest in an employee, they will work double hard for you because they feel even more committed to making sure that you see that they want and appreciate your investment and recognition in their potential.
And when you invest, you're listening. When you're listening, you're caring. Yep. And this is like, so, and we all know, actually, we listen to the originators complain about, whatever services they're using. If they don't like this dog poop AMC that they're forced to use, so they switch AMCs. But when we have something so important to us like this is the most important thing. So this is listen. From what I'm hearing, actually, the biggest obstacle that companies have is that they're not setting up the proper structure within their organizations. They're not setting up clubs. They're not putting people together and having these conversations.
Yeah, essentially, they're not investing in their people. We as an origination side, particularly on the origination side, if you got a great loan officer, the only thing you want that person to do is become a great loan officer and become better, right? Yeah. But you never take an opportunity to listen and say, hey, what do you want to be 3 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? And maybe that great originator can be great at something else in a different part of your organization, but you never really asked, nor have you given them an opportunity. And so what ends up happening is when someone shows them a roadmap, when someone listens to them, when someone shows them that they care about their future and they're willing to invest in their future, then normally what happens is you get a lot of resignation. Then it's too late.
Yeah. It's a great thing. Great insight there. So Jason just wrote this. I believe that the mortgage industry, Jason Frazier, I believe that the mortgage industry is one of the few industries where anyone can achieve success regardless of economic or educational background. Oh my goodness, so true. Should the industry be focusing on creating a career path program that is focusing on helping communities where there's not a lot of choices for a high-paying career? Great question, Jason. What do you think, Hon?
Yeah, well, first of all, that's exactly what we're doing at NAMMBA. One of our missions is we have something called Mission 2025, which is to connect 50,000 students to careers in this industry by 2025. In fact, we're launching a hyper intensive version of that called the Student Challenge this month, because 4 million college students graduated in May this past month, and over 2 million of those do not have a job given the current economic environment. We want to let them know that there are entry-level careers in servicing right now, operations. Oh, guess what? You used to sell tickets to all your friends for football games or whatever the case may be, and you were a great salesperson in college. There's a job called an originator where you're absolutely right, Jason. You can make a lot of money. However, I think it's also important to say that sometimes the challenges that a minority loan originator goes through will be totally different than what a non-minority originator would be. However, at the same time, one of the things I love about this industry is an equal opportunity. You just got to work a little bit harder. And at the end of the day, you can achieve and do whatever you want to do. But there needs to be certainly a realization that, and I'll give you an example. Again, back when I was in Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis is a great city and a great community. But in Memphis also had some race issues. As a matter of fact, the NBA, we launched a project to increase African-American home ownership in Memphis. Next week, we've got a town hall about that, and Steve O'Connor from the NBA is going to be on. So, I'm keeping it real, as we say, in the hood, Andrew, that, back in the day, Memphis was a racial city, and they had some issues. So I, as an African-American loan officer, just starting out my career, I could not go over into the white neighborhood and get a jumbo loan. I had to go down into the hood, hopefully park my car, and hopefully I didn't get robbed, and try to find an FHA and a DPA and a 580 or 500 and try to rehab that, to get my business started. That's just a realization of what it was at that time when I was originating. And unfortunately, while things have changed and gotten better, if you ask most minority LOs, hey, you're Latino, can you get crossover business? Crossover business means, do you get business that are people that don't look like you? Still to this day, most loan originators will probably say, no, but I wish I could get more. Interesting.
So now, do you think originators do anything that can kind of, have any kind of practices that are discriminatory without realizing that they are discriminatory? And they're naively doing these things. Is there anything that you could think of that originators might be doing like that, or maybe even mortgage companies? And anything you could think of?
I think where we as an industry have to understand technology is great, but we also have to be very careful that as we implement technology to speed up the mortgage program, if the technology that is being developed is not being developed by people with diverse backgrounds, people who have had different experiences, one of the unintended consequences are we will intentionally leave out a segment of people and discriminate against their opportunity to own a home, because the technology that we're using, at the end of the day, was developed in such a way that you had 10 white males writing the code who never thought about certain things that happen in a community or a neighborhood that are cultural differences, not economic or social, but cultural differences that could impact the decisioning and approval or denial of a loan.
Interesting. So it's like when you're setting up systems, when you're setting up like your underwriting guidelines, when you're creating your marketing plan, whenever you're doing all of the structure to your business, you need to have actually people that have a diverse background to share and give input.
Yeah, because again, if you don't have a collection of diverse people, you may be intentionally hurting yourself and also the communities that you're trying to help, because you truly don't have all the perspectives that you need to be able to implement the right system or process in your organization. That's the power of diversity, inclusion. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's great. My dad said this, Joel, my dad, Mr. Berman. Are there success stories of minorities in the mortgage industry that can energize minority youth to enter in the mortgage industry, and can NAMMBA promote that? NAMMBA 100, right?
Yeah,
You got a list of,
I mean,
of unbelievable, top producers by originators, by originated by units and by volume. There's a lot of success stories there.
yeah, and every year we partner with NMP, so thanks to you guys for your support in that, in terms of just showcasing the talent. And we're talking about the NAMMBA Top 100, or a list of top 100 originators of all ethnicities. So women, Latinos, Asian, Indian, African Americans. It doesn't matter. We just want to have a vehicle to showcase top talent. And then, to your point, Joel, take that talent and introduce them to their communities and introduce them to people in the country, so that young people can say, hey, what do you do? I love it when I'm out in the market, or I'm out in public, and someone says, what do you do? Because they see the nice blazer I have on, or just, what
always,
I'm talking about.
Always the nicest blazers. This guy is no question about it. I'm always so admirable of your blazers.
What do you do? That is the most important question for me, because I get a chance to tell them how I'm in an industry where we impact positively people's lives and create home ownership, and that, hey, great. I was just like you, buddy, now you can be like me or better than me. That is huge. The second piece of that is also us making sure that, again, as we look at people who have moved up, that we highlight them, but we also find a way to again, create a roadmap to get more people like Christy Furcos, who's the Flagstar president of the mortgage banking for Flagstar, who's also second in line for NBA president, which would be great. And we've had other white women and who are presidents of the NBA and other organizations. So it's just really developing a pipeline.
Yeah. And my brother Hayden, thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support as always. So Tony, where do we go from here? What's our next actions? Like, what do we do actually though? So people are going to get off this webcast. They're going to stop watching this video. What could I do today? Literally, what can I do today? I'm sitting here. It's right now 4:42 on East Coast time. What could I do today to take some kind of action? Like, give me an action step that anyone who's watching this can do right now.
So the first step is not a shameless step, but to me is one that's needed, and that is join NAMMBA.
It's expensive, right? It's hundreds of dollars.
No, only $35 a year.
Crazy,
but $35 a year. But it's really not about just joining NAMMBA, but really at the end of the day, joining an organization that is here for the industry. NAMMBA is a non-political organization. You look at our mission statement, it's two things: help the people who are in the industry, which, by the way, at the end of the day, we don't care if you're white, black, green, yellow. It doesn't matter. If you're passionate about learning and growing, I can promise you, you won't find another association that delivers more content, more value than we do for $35 a year. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And that's because our mission is focused on making our industry better. The second part of our industry, our mission, is focusing on bringing more people into our industry, bringing more young people, because at the end of the day, Andrew, you and I owe it to somebody coming behind us to help give them a life and an opportunity that we all have had in this industry by paying it forward. And that, to me, is what I'm focused on now, is trying to lead this industry, the industry that I've dedicated my life and will dedicate my life to, leaving it better than when I found it. And if we can do those two things, man, life will be great.
Yep. As Aiden just said, inclusivity. Inclusivity, great word. Yeah. Love that. All right. Thank you so much, Tony. I always love spending time with you. This is the topic of what we have to talk about today because of George Floyd's death. Like you said in the video, it allows us to use this as an opportunity to rise up in something next, where we can impact some kind of change in our industry, in our communities that we serve. And like you said, that first step, join NAMMBA. $35. Go do it. All right. NAMMBA.org, right?
Yep, NAMMBA.org. NAMMBA.org.
Fantastic. All right, Tony, just stick around for a minute. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook. Every day we go live at 4 o'clock East Coast time, 1 o'clock Pacific, with some of the greatest leaders in the mortgage industry. And tomorrow, oh my goodness, I'm just like kind of almost like fanboy crazy. Christy Furco, one of the greatest leaders in the industry. Yeah, so she's joining us tomorrow. I mean, there's no question about it. I'm such a fan of what she's done with her career. So very, very exciting.
I highly encourage everyone to be a part of that MNP live tomorrow. I'm sure Christy has a lot of great insights. So. Always
some great insights. Always just a great personality. It's funny. Most of the people actually that have that are I find actually the best people to interview are people that have sales background. Christy doesn't have a sales background, and she's just great. Just her passion just flows through the camera. But whenever you see her or meet her, it just flows out of her. Just even having a conversation. So excited to have her on tomorrow. 4 o'clock East Coast time, 1 o'clock Pacific time. Tony, thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow.